Isreal Grant for the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute's Oral History Project by Benny Miles at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, May 31st, 1996 at 1 p.m. How are you today?
Doing very well, thank you. Good to be here.
Good. Glad to have you come out and be with us. Where are you from, Mr. Grant?
I'm originally here from Birmingham. Grew up in Southtown Project on the south side.
Oh yeah. So what? That's at the time. That's a housing community.
That's correct. That's correct.
And where did you go to elementary school?
I went to W.C. Davis beginning, and we left the south side in '59, and we moved to Titusville, and I went to Center Street Elementary and finished from there.
What about Southtown? Let's talk about when you grew up, when you first kind of knew you. As I said, were you 5 or 4, 6?
4 and 5, and I can remember a young lady guiding me to the little house we had, little clubhouse they had up there where they graduated kindergarten. When I graduated at 5 years old with my little cap and gown.
Oh yeah.
And we had the baseball field, and that's what. And the only entertainment we had was on the 4th, was sitting on the baseball diamond and watching the fireworks from up on the mountain at Channel 6.
Oh yeah.
And that was the outlet for us on the 4th.
Was that a lot of fun?
Very much so. That's all we knew.
What about living in that community at that time? What was it like? Was it really great living in these brick homes, or what was it like?
At that time, it was tops, because the project was altogether different. At that time, we had no fear. Everybody was neighborly, everybody was nice and looked after each other's children, and we thought it was a step up, and that's all I ever knew, because when I came home from the hospital, that's all I ever knew was the project. So
when you lived there, do you remember any of the people that lived either next door or
across the walkway was Miss Sally Moore, and I think she's the oldest living resident in Southtown Project. She's still there. I think they did an article on her not long ago in the paper. She was our neighbor across the street, and her son and I, Andrew Moreland, were good friends. So
when you were growing up there, and you lived with your mom and dad?
Mother and father, that's correct.
And did your mom work outside of the home?
She was domestic work, $5 in car fare going over the mountain.
$5 a day?
And car fare.
And car fare.
That's right.
Do you remember anything about who your mom worked for? The family?
It was the McKinstries, who owned McKinstry Flower Shop on 20th Street. And it was Mr. Basta. He was on a big realty company downtown.
So what about your dad? What did he do?
Father was, he did work in the flower business also, but he was really a custodian at Pizzit's department store, and he moved the furniture around.
Okay, I want to talk a little more about your mom and dad, but I want to go back to talking about the neighbor that lived across the street. When your mom and dad, if they weren't home, did neighbors look out for you, and did they kind of tell on you if you did anything wrong?
All the time, all the time. You couldn't do anything, and they were always watchful, and they would whip you just as well as mother did, and you really wouldn't want to do anything wrong, because if they whip you, then when your mother get home, she would whip you also. So really, it kept us in line, and I thank them a lot for that today, but we don't have that today.
Who was the one that was the main one? You know, every community, when you're growing up, you can remember a Mrs. Jones or somebody who was just so newsy, always in your business. You know, was there anybody like that in your business in terms of telling on you?
I could say that was Miss Alice, and anytime we play ball and our ball would go in her yard, she would keep the ball. She would always tell on her. I remember her when she was up in age at that time then, but she was the main one. Everybody knew Miss Alice.
So she probably had a lot of balls.
She had a lot of balls.
So she may be one of the ball business.
I believe so.
Let's talk about your mom and dad. Your mom who did domestic work, $5 a day and car fare. Do you remember anything about the family that she worked for in terms of how she may have said how they treated her then? Did she like them, or did she not like them? And did they send little goodies home to the kids?
No, they didn't send any goodies home, but I would go over with her sometime, and even associate with her son, which was about my age. And they had corn collection, and naturally I thought that they were rich, and we were in a project, and by mother working for them, and also I used to help her iron the clothes, the white shirts she used to bring home for me. She taught me how to iron at 12 years old.
What age
I was
were you?
12.
You were ironing at 12?
12, ironing at 12, and she used to bring their clothes home, the white shirts, And I used to help iron, and that's how she started me on ironing at the age of 12.
Okay, you're looking for a job ironing now?
No, I'm not. It comes in handy though.
Okay, so you learned to iron,
Mhm.
and so you can remember seeing all this, in your opinion, at that time, this opulence of this family that your mom worked for. And so what did you think?
I was wondering why things were so different and why we didn't have. But I knew that my mother didn't finish no more than the 5th grade, and from Demopolis, Alabama. And I knew that my father didn't finish no more than the 5th grade, and he was from Opelika, Alabama. And he couldn't hardly read much, but mother was a good speller and reader, even though she didn't finish much in school. But my father did very little for his addition, and I can remember him adding money, putting 4 or 5 20s in a row on a piece of paper until I showed him about multiplication and stuff that I had learned in school. And he would always tell me to learn all I can, son, because I'm going to need it. I never would forget that. But he was the quietest, kindest, and most gentle man I ever known in my life. But he ruled with a strong hand.
And when you say he ruled with a strong hand, did he say like, okay, boys, you can sit down over there, or was he like?
No, he always
sit
had a
down
soft
and-
voice. He was always soft voice, but you know when he say something, he meant that, and you wouldn't want for mother to say, I'm going to tell my father on, because he would definitely get everything straightened out.
And that's something that Bill Cosby mentioned recently about looks that parents give it then, that you knew.
That's right.
A certain look that
Certainly, look, he didn't really have to say anything. He just carried himself in such a way, and you would never want your mother to say anything to dad about what you had done. You would beg and plead with her not to say anything.
Please, Mom, I'm going to be good. I'm going to be good. Is that what you'd say?
Somewhat, yeah. But she would hardly ever, she would do most of the whipping. No, he would hate to whip the children. He really didn't like to.
So you went over the mountain sometimes with your mom, and you could see though that the family they were decent people, or what?
I consider they were rich. I thought because they owned a flower shop and they could do anything they wanted to do. They had cars and money and their corn collection. I never forget that her son brought out corn collections and showing me, and he was just showing me all the things they had, and I think they had an intercom system in the house, and I thought that was something that's out of sight, not being around that, and had bar in the kitchen where you could just sit around the kitchen. And I used to, we just used to the little tables.
Did you say when I get grown, I'm going to
I would very much like to have that, but the way things seemed and the jobs that they had, I didn't know, but that's why my father always told me to try to get all I can and use all I get.
What about your dad, the people that he worked for? You said he worked at Pizitz.
Pizitz.
And did you ever go to Pizitz, or did he ever say anything about how the working conditions were for him?
He never did discuss the conditions, but I went down there on numerous occasions. He would purchase all of my clothes in Pizitz bargain basement, and they had a little room for him in the back where they would have him sitting until they needed him to come out and move some furniture. And I remember in the bargain basement that he stopped me from drinking out of the wrong water fountain that was labeled white and one was colored. And he pulled me off to the side, and I never forget him telling me about that was the wrong fountain. I didn't supposed to drink, and I asked him why. And he said, when I get a little bit older, I understand, but I just didn't understand why I couldn't drink out of that fountain. But he used to buy all my clothes, winter clothes in the summer, and all my summer clothes in the winter, and he would get them out of the bargain basement at Pizitz. And I used to, after school, I would go by there sometime. He spent a lot of time with me.
And living in Southtown was really a nice experience.
I think it was very nice. I say the project has changed a great deal. And I mean, I thought it was like heaven. I mean, because we left from there and moved into a shotgun house.
So it was really better.
Really better. That's right.
So you moved now. What is a shotgun house?
Where you just open the door and it's like a barrel shotgun, just straight through. You can throw a rock and just go straight out the back door.
And that wasn't as good.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. We left that and moved to Tittsville on the south side, down from the city jail off of 6th Avenue on 2nd Street, in an alley, on the corner of an alley in a shotgun house.
So you remember that?
Very much so. That's where I was raised.
Do you remember the reason that you moved? Was it the house would be better? Were you renting or
no, something came up with the housing authority with my father. I don't really know because I was so small.
Probably with him working, maybe.
Maybe so. Maybe it might have, but I didn't know the entry. But he just told us we had to move, and he wasn't making much. And I think the shotgun house was renting for maybe $35. They were $35 a month, I think. Yeah, at that time.
So now let's talk about the school. When you went to school, how was school for you?
School was very good. On my very first day of school, on the way to WC Day of school, very first day, I got struck by an automobile. And they told me I was knocked about 10 feet. And the only thing I can remember is that waking up, and when they got my father, I was just a block or two from the project. And they examined me, and I didn't find anything wrong. And really, my father and I walked to St. Vincent Hospital.
That was a
no
long
bones
walk.
broken, no bones broken. Anything you could kind of cut through the back road before they built all of that, what they have now. And it was just a blessing, just meant to be here. Could have been dead and gone, but.
Did the person not stop?
Oh, they stopped. They
Okay.
stopped. They stopped and offered any assistance, but really wasn't. Folks were crying and hollering, but just a blessing. Could have been dead. No bones broken.
You were very
And jeans weren't really dirty. My little Banlon shirt.
Oh, that.
You remember Banlon?
That was the style then?
That was it. That was it.
Was this high school or elementary?
No, that was elementary school.
Elementary school?
First day at WC Dayton.
So let's come forward just a moment with those
Okay.
jeans and Banlon. What do you think of the uniforms? You think that they should go back to maybe jeans and Banlons? Or uniforms and stuff?
I think uniforms is nice, and I was reading article. I think that's very good. But behind all what has happened, behind some kids are able to get more expensive clothes and they put them all kind of on the same level, and maybe that would cut down on the crime. It would be a step forward, I believe.
What about sisters and brothers? How many?
3 brothers and 1 sister. All of them were older, and I was the baby. And when they finished high school, most of them migrated and went north to New York.
Okay, and you stayed here.
I was here, had to stay here.
You wanted to stay with mom and dad?
Well, yeah, still in school and didn't know anything else, and then I just wanted to make it here, and so many things happened. And after finishing high school, able to I say get on to a good job, and the Lord blessed me, and I've been there ever since.
So in a general sense about your sisters and brothers, we are leaving Alabama. We don't want to be down here in this country place. We are going to the north. And you can stay here if you want to, or later when you finish school, you can join us. Because we're going to make it big in the big city.
That's what they said.
So how did they do in a general sense?
They did very well. My oldest brother, Wednesday, he working for a shoe factory. And he was sending some pictures and always sending mom and dad something for Mother's Day and Father's Day. And I always looked up to him, and we would go to visit. I would go to New York maybe every other year. When mom would go, dad would go, they would take me.
What did you think of New York?
Awesome.
Then.
Just awesome. Just awesome. Can remember going to Coney Island. Can remember riding the ride they had out there and throwing up all the way on the subway going back to my brother's house. That's too exciting.
So you thought this is the life.
This was it. That was it. That's why I wanted to come after, but things started changing in my life after that.
Okay, well, let's say some more about your brothers and sisters.
Okay.
Did they, all of them?
They remained up in New York, and my older brother, the one that left in '54, is back here now, sold his home in Central New York and moved here in Alabama and bought a home here, and he's moved back.
So that's what I
Birmingham.
wanted to get, the point that I wanted to make was that going to the big city and, no, we don't want to be down there with those country bumpkins. We're going to go up north and make all this money. And then, how did you do compared to them? Like you stayed here and now your career is,
Yeah, I stayed here,
things
and
changed for you.
my brother next to my sister stayed here too. He helped got me on at Alabama Power Company. He was apprentice lineman at the time, and he got me hired on when I came out of high school in 1968, and we went from there. And he's been progressing. He's sub-foreman now, and I progressed, and Lord is blessing. We've done just as well as they were up north and down here, and the cost of living was cheaper.
So then when they looked at you and they said, man, they saw, see what you have, your home and the things that you have, what do they say?
I guess they kind of put me a little bit on their level now, or maybe even a little bit above, but
Saying that they could be where you are had they stayed here.
that's correct. Possibly so, but during the time it was so rough then, but it had been through a lot of changes here. Then when they were up there, things were going better and things were rough here.
What about the changes in your life? Well, how did you get involved with the movement?
Really, it was kind of indirect in a sense. It wasn't just during the time when the movement, they had the fire hoses and the dogs. And my father didn't want me involved, and I was kind of one that stood back in the background. But so happened in around in 1963, the summer of '63, I was on the way to babysit my sister's kids in Avondale Project, and I got up on the bus in front of Alabama Theater, and I sit next to a Caucasian elderly woman. And she didn't want me there, and she told the bus driver, so he shut the doors, locked the doors down, bus down, and everybody was telling me to run and all this and then I hadn't done anything. I just wanted to sit down. The bus was packed, and they had the railing running from the floor to the top, and I was trying to hold to the railing. It was the only seat, but all the blacks were in the back, were just full all the way to the max. So I just decided to sit there. I just had my bag with my night clothes and stuff in.
Was that board that they
The
talked
board wasn't
about?
up.
Okay.
The board wasn't up.
So you felt that it was okay?
Okay for me to sit there, and I guess it was just in me anyway.
And I'm
to come out
here today. Don't bother me
But
today.
the bus driver acted as though he was an officer of the law or something, where he shut the bus down and talked to me rude. And
What did he say?
he called me a nigger, this, that, and other. And our people in the back were trying to get me to run to get off the bus, but he had locked the doors. I couldn't get out. But I told him I hadn't done anything. So one of our people came from the back and ushered me back to the back with them. By that time, the bus driver had called the police, and they had police cars, and they slung me off the bus into the paddy wagon and took me up to City Hall and questioned me. And the detective was saying that my attitude was nice and I was respectful, but he said, the other detective said I'm just like all the other niggas, and I need to go to juvenile. So I asked him, could I call my parents? They wouldn't let me call my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said that the lady was going to go file some charges against me as disorderly conduct, and I told him I hadn't done that. He said, well, son, I can't let you go. He said, I like your attitude, but he said, I just can't let you go. I can't let you go. I could never live it down. Mm-hmm. So they took me to juvenile court and asked them, could I call my parents? They still wouldn't let me call my parents.
How old were you then?
I was 13.
Were you scared and crying?
Frightened to death.
Mm-hmm.
Had never, anything like that ever happened.
What did you think would happen to you? What was going through your mind?
I've heard and I've seen a lot of time they take them off and beat them and all that, and they was discussing that in the car, transporting me from City Hall over to juvenile court and what they should do to me and all this, but others
Do you
said no.
remember what they said?
Said, well, I'll take this nigga out and beat him or something like that, but I was just frightened. But I remember that talking, it just scared me to death, really. I was just in shock. I was so glad to see the juvenile court, I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. But I was large for my age.
So they took you to juvenile.
And I stayed in there overnight.
They still hadn't called you parents?
No, nobody called. My father hunting funeral homes, just calling everywhere, city everywhere. They could never find me till that morning, and he and my brother found me in juvenile court, and I never will forget. Father just broke down and just tears, just crying. I never just seen him cry like that. And after that, court date came up in September. And they checked my record and wanted to know what kind of student I was. And principal at that time, Mr. R.C. Sheehy at Summer Street Elementary, vouched for me. My grades were up to par, so they couldn't find anything on me. I attended church and Sunday school, they still didn't have anything, nothing on me, period. So when we went to court, the judge threw it out. And the lawyer my father had gotten was, I think, W.O. Williams out of Titusville. They stayed down the street.
W.O. Williams?
And he really tried the case. I mean, he wasn't backing up at all, and I was just amazed the way he just stood up and so bold.
And a black man.
I mean, really bold. And he told him that it was the reason that I was black, the reason why she didn't want me to sit there, not because I had knocked up against, because I did not touch her. And I stood fast and hold her because I did not touch her. I was very careful not to, and that was instilled in us anyway, not to touch her. Unless known I ain't supposed to be up on the front seat, but just to touch her.
What do you remember a moment here of parents saying about white people or white women, if you pass by in their presence, about touching or not touching? Do you remember anything?
My father used to sit down and talk to me a lot, and he said it would be wise and safe and I would live a long time if I didn't have anything to do with a white woman ever. And I had seen how different things had happened, how a lot of men have been lynched, and you see on the TV and you've heard and you've read. And that was instilled in me. But I always felt that there were so many beautiful black women that I wouldn't have time to get around to the white women. So I stayed on course, and I just love our black women. It never did occur.
So at court, Attorney W.L. Williams, you said he really stood his ground in terms of the other lawyers not being afraid because he was a black man. He wasn't afraid. And
he told it just like it was. And the judge said he couldn't find anything on me, and I seemed to be a good boy, as he said. And so he threw it out of court. My father paid the cost of court, of course. And I think my father had to pay Mr. Williams, I think it was $40. And well, as we were coming out, the lady came over to my father and said that she apologized. And he asked her why she apologized. She said that she thought I was older. And she thought I was about 18. And he asked her, what did that have to do with it? And she said he's just a big boy for his age. She thought I was much older. And they said that they would get that off my record and all that, and because really just want to clear that up.
So it had nothing to do with you, and it didn't have anything to do with you or the age of whether you were younger or older. She just decided to
black. That's right. And I was big for my age, but she just didn't want me. And the bus driver did not want me directly behind him on the front seat, and all the blacks were to the back. And he had some other few whites and everything, but nobody was going to sit in that seat. And I guess I was just crazy enough and foolish enough and young enough to just sit there.
If you had it to do again, that question always comes up to people, would you do the same thing
Yes,
again?
ma'am, I would do the same thing. It was just in me, I believe so. And during that situation, the way it was, I mean, the bus was packed, really, really packed. And I've been standing down there waiting. I just wanted to sit down with my bag. I really did, and nothing else.
What about after then, when you got on the bus again after then? What did you do? Were you tempted again, or?
Yes, very much so. But I kind of went on to the back.
Because you figured if you got caught again.
The same thing over again, because I don't know, it must have been something about my look or something, I don't know.
When you look at the movement then, and if you look at schools then, and you look at the movement now, and you look at schools now, what do you think as it relates to education and kids and teachers and the movement? Did the movement make an impact on you then? Or what do you think of it now? Is it doing a good job now?
It made a great impact on me then, because I could stand by the wayside and I saw when Fred Sherwood and coming down 6th Avenue when they were putting them all in city jail. It was so packed, and then they had to take some out there, I think, the fairgrounds, and I was standing outside the fence. My father did not want me involved, and I was talking to him through the fly. I mean, just packed, just more you can see in March and everything. But it had a great impact on me, and I really want to get involved more than what my father was holding me back. Being his baby boy, and he just explained so many things. Son, you get killed, and son, you do this. But I'm still eager. But still, that happened to me to bring it out of me. And even though he tried to keep me away from it, something still happened. But I don't feel that the movement is effective. Somewhere we're not reaching the kids, and it might not be just the movement sake. I believe everything starts at home, and maybe the parents are not teaching the kids and telling them about what they went through. And I told my daughter, she just could not believe all of that, what I told her when I brought her out here to the Institute and to take it. She could not believe, and I was fighting, trying to hold back the tears and how it hurt me so to bring back all those memories, and especially seeing the fountains and the bus and all the pictures and all that. When it just kind of tore my heart up, but she just couldn't believe
and how
that
old is
had
your
went
daughter?
on. This is my wife's daughter at home. She's 18 now, attending Tennessee State.
And it's, as you know, as people say, it is okay to cry, because I think there would probably be tears of joy, tears of relief, tears of sorrow, just mixed emotions, I would imagine. When you first came to the Institute, did you come alone or did you come with
No, I
somebody?
brought my cousin from Chicago and her daughter, and they were just amazed. And they were raised up in Opelika, but her daughter was born in Chicago, and she had left Opelika, finishing high school, and been up there ever since. And she had never really visited Birmingham, and she had heard about the Institute, so we wanted to see it. And that was our first time. We've been saying we were going to bring my daughter down to see it, but this was the time. And it was more than a notion, it really was.
So when you look back and you saw that water fountain and you thought about my daddy and being in the basement of the Pizzits and whatever, what kind of things went through your mind?
Well, it brought back those memories, and that's when I had to kind of just pull away from my wife and trying to hold back the tears, trying to get out to myself. It just really tore my heart up, and just to see it, and everything's so realistic, and whoever put it together did a beautiful job. I was telling my wife they did a beautiful job. It just really, if anybody who lived through it and have experienced enough just to go through the museum, it really just touches your heart, really does.
Do you think you'll come to the Institute again one day by yourself and just kind of reflect?
It'll be pretty tough for me. I think I would need somebody with me that really affected me greatly. I doubt if I would come alone, but we would say we want to come back again on numerous time. We really do.
When you think about the hundreds of people who have gone through similar situations, some just as great, maybe some greater, not as large as yours or somebody else's, and you look at that, what do you say when people say, we don't need a Civil Rights Institute? Why do they want to put those things in there? That's the past. We're in the 90s now. We're moving ahead. We don't need to be reminded of that. What do you say?
I think you always need to look back, but don't go back. And looking back at your past helps you to press forward. And that's what it has done to me. And I always stay in my mind about my father, about the education and all the civil rights workers that worked and watching them and all what they went through. And then I think about, I mentioned to one of my daughters about voting, and I was down there when I turned 18 exactly, and one of the men said, you just couldn't wait, could you? You just couldn't wait. And I was looking at him, I said, no, sir, I just couldn't wait when I had been able to vote. And then I see some of them saying now, it doesn't matter, and they feel that way. And I say, people have lost their lives for this, and that's what stays strong in me, but they just seem to not see it. And maybe we're not doing our job at home as parents, and that's where it starts. But my father and my mother instilled in me, and most of my father, because he really took time out with me. If he didn't have anything else to give me, he gave me his time.
Mm-hmm. And that's so important.
And very important.
What do you say to those people who don't have fathers, but you hear men saying, these kids are doing this and these kids are doing that, and some people say, well, we need some help with our kids. I mean, the march in Washington that so many African American men from Birmingham went, and the group that Dr. Huntley works with when they came back from the march, but that they're still doing a lot of things. What about those guys who are talking and not doing? What would you say to them? Should they volunteer to take a kid under his?
If they're not, well, I think if they can find time, and a lot of us usually do, we do everything else we want. I think if they find time and really apply themselves, but it depends on how they feel within themselves, within their hearts, and maybe they're really not interested and really don't care. And I found a lot of people that, and even in my business, that they really just don't care. They've got theirs in their life, they're satisfied with it, and the heck with everybody else.
Speaking of living conditions, have you ever gone back over to where your mom worked in that area and to reflect and say, well, I've got the intercom now, or whether you do one or not?
No, I don't.
Or that I did it, and talk about your education and your job, how you are where you are now. But have you ever gone back?
I have not visited the house, but by being employed by the power company, I have worked in numerous areas in the city. And I don't even remember the particular house, but I've been in that area over in Vestavia, over there, earlier parts of my employment with the company. And I see now, I mean, if you work hard and continue to have your belief in God and give it your very best and try to love your neighbor as yourself, and God really brought it about that. I feel just as good, and I see now and then it wasn't so much, my father wasn't making very much, but it's what you did with what you had. And I could see him now and steal the $20 bills, fold them up, put them in vanilla folders and hide them behind a picture, and he would stash something here and there and all over the house and everything. And it really wasn't how much, it was the consistency of it. And the same way it is about saving now. If you just put maybe $5 away, but just do it consistent, it will soon build up.
What about your parents? Are they still with you?
Both of them deceased.
But they got an opportunity to see you grow up and...
I was grown, yes, when they passed, but not in the capacity I am, not doing as well as I am now, because maybe I was struggling because of my own selfish reasons, but after they passed, things really just blossomed for me, and I guess that was when I entered into the ministry. The Lord really blessed me. Things just started happening.
What do you think got you involved in the ministry?
A good Christian mother and father, for one thing, but I never did want to be a preacher, because I saw how people mistreated preachers.
No.
And that was, oh yeah. And everybody doesn't love them like they claim. And I had my pastor, former pastor, Dr. Greason, from 23rd Street, Bethel Baptist Church. I'm sorry, it was across from Southtown Project. And he laid the foundation for me. Bible study of 3 or 4 years, teaching and standing boldly, preaching the word. And he took time with me, and any problems I had in marriages and out of marriages and whatever the case was, he would always take time and talk to me, and he could always put the word on it. And still I had no desires. I had a choice, but I had no choice when God called me. But him really standing tall and teaching and preaching the word kind of led me strongly, and by having a Christian mother and father, I had it in the home.
When you talk with your daughter and maybe other young children that may be in your family, when you've spoken to them about if they happen to see something on television or whatever, and you say, oh, that really happened because so-and-so happened to me, and do they believe you? Do they say, oh, that didn't really happen, they're just making that up? And then when they saw and said, my goodness, he was telling the truth. Then what did they say?
That's what she didn't think, my daughter didn't think that it really happened. And I sat her down and I told her, and really I almost got into tears then just telling her because it brought back so much pain. And she said, Dad, I just can't, they treated you like that. I just can't believe that was going to make you drink out of special water and all that, and she come to town. I said, baby, I said, you just don't know. I said, you need to see. I said, but that's why we're telling you this. I said, you got it made. You just got it made. And you just don't know what we went through and what the others went through. It's so important now.
Is there something that I didn't ask you that before you leave you'd like to share with us about your experiences?
No more than they've been a great help, and I thank God for a Christian mother and father. I thank God for my former pastor, Dr. Greason, for really just continuously teaching and preaching the word, and all of those mothers that look after me in Southtown Project, and the ones in Titusville that stayed in the alley along with us, that would watch over me when my mother was at work, and also the teachers in one, which I'm going to help retire today, that instilled a lot of respect and honor within us as kids, and they took time out with us, not only just as playing basketball and their students, but also would take us to camp and a Boy Scout camp, Camp in the Walker, and stuff like that. Just took time out, but I thank God for them. They instilled a lot in me.
For somebody who's never been to the Civil Rights Institute, and you're asked to say why they need to come to the Institute, what would you say to encourage them to come? How would you invite them to come?
I would tell them that it really is their past, but it's also their future. And they need to see it, and they really want to know where they came from and just about where we're headed. They need to come and be a part of it and to see it. And in any way that they can make a financial contribution, they need to do so, because it's important to our young kids, because they don't even believe it happened.
Okay. Thank you.